Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's workshop, Unlocking Insights, Getting Started with Sitefinity Insight.
Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. This will be a bit of a hybrid session, meaning that we are going to do some exercises that you can use, that you can follow along to. So what Ali mentioned in the beginning, right, making sure that you can log into that trial data center that was provisioned for you, that would be great. Before we jump into the agenda for today, again, we do want to do a very high-level overview of Sitefinity Insight. And Sitefinity Insight is a customer data platform that allows us to collect and track customer interactions from multiple different sources, whether those be the web channel that we're going to talk about today, or things such as email marketing tools, CRMs, or other even offline interactions that we can have with our customers as a brand. And really the idea is that we collect all of those different interactions from those different sources. We analyze them in Sitefinity Insight, and then we use that to be even better equipped to talk to our potential customers, visitors, and the people that we interact with. And with that being said, we are going to start with the very basics today. So we're essentially starting from scratch in terms of setup. And for the agenda, we are going to talk about how to connect Sitefinity Insight with Sitefinity CMS and how easy the integration happens. We're also going to have a very quick high-level overview of some of the data that gets stored in Insight and how we can use it. For the main topic of today's session, we are going to be focusing on touchpoints and conversions. So touchpoints are the key interactions, the key breadcrumbs that our visitors leave when they interact with us across our multiple channels. And conversions are key business objectives that we want to keep track of. And also we'll finish up with a look forward. We do want to set the stage for today's session and the exercises that we're going to be doing. And for that, I'll very quickly switch over to a dummy website that we are managing within Sitefinity. Now, again, for today's session, we don't really need to do anything on the website. So if you don't have access to it, don't be alarmed. This is just a playground that we'll be using as the basis for our Insight exercises. Here, we can see that this is a fictional bank called Quantum Digital Bank, and it offers some products and services, right? Credit cards, home loans, insurance products. We have some testimonials. We have a get in touch form. We have some additional information. And we thought that this is an example that everyone can relate to, right? All of us have had a credit card or opened up a savings account or had a home loan or something like that. So we thought that this would be kind of an easy playground to start with. For today's session, again, as someone working in Quantum Bank, right, as a marketer in Quantum Bank, I would really like to know how to get my people to the correct places on my website and how to make use of the products and services that we're actually offering, right? Get them into credit card applications, get them to consider home loans, investment opportunities, insurance, and so on and so forth. So we do want to understand what our visitors do on this website and how we can guide them towards those specific business objectives that I have. So this is what we're going to be using as a testbed, and the trial data centers that we've provisioned for you will have some data on those for that website. Again, for the first step, we are going to connect Insight with Sitefinity CMS. Now, if you haven't used Insight before, don't feel obliged to connect a data center to your live CMS, right? We don't want you to connect something with dummy data that's not applicable to your use case, right? Just to showcase. But we are going to start with the very basics. So we'll go back here very, very quickly. And here I have an exact same data center as the one that you're probably going to see within your trial accounts. One thing to mention for people who have logged into Insight before, and I do see a question from Sabria in the chat as well around this. If you have logged into Insight before, your demo account will be provisioned separate. So there's going to be a drop down here on the top left hand side where you can switch between different accounts that you've been granted access to. And there is one specifically called Insight Webinars. So if you see that one, you can switch over to it. And in here, right, I'm going to see a lot of data centers because we've provisioned a lot for today. But in my case, I can switch back to my own demo account here, and I'll be able to switch to this Mike Bank data center. Now, once we've navigated to Sitefinity Insight here on the main screen, all we really need to do in order to connect to the Sitefinity CMS is to grant it access. And the way that we do that is by going to the administration menu on the top right-hand side here. And here under the account overview, we're going to see the option to generate access keys. So connecting our websites with Sitefinity Insight is done through an access key. And right here, I have a list of previously issued keys. I can generate a brand new one here, and I can give it a name. And again, for this one, I'll just call this one Insight Section 1. To keep things simple, right, we can either grant access to all data centers on our account or to a single data center here from the list that we see here. Again, I'm going to keep things simple and I'll just grant access to all data centers for now. Now, once we click generate, we are going to get this access key, and we want to keep this somewhere safe, right? This is essentially what allows external systems to send data over into Insight. We want to keep this key safe. We don't want role actors or anything like that to grab this key and be able to send false interactions. So I'm going to copy this key over, place it somewhere safe, and then once I have done that, I can go into Sitefinity CMS. Now, hopefully this is a screen that a lot of you would be more familiar with if you have been working in the CMS. And under the administration option again here is where I can find the Sitefinity Insight connector right here under the connectivity section. So if we go into Sitefinity Insight, we are going to see the option to connect a CMS instance to a Sitefinity Insight instance. Now, in my case, I've done this connection previously, so I have the option to reconnect. But what I'll do instead is I'll just change the connection, and this will allow me to paste in that key that we saw earlier. So I can go ahead and paste it in. I can press connect, and that's all I need to do in order to connect my website with Sitefinity Insight. From this point onwards, there's going to be automatic tracking enabled, again, with cookie consent, of course, that will send interactions such as page views, content views, searches, video plays, and so on and so forth from my web channel into Sitefinity Insight, and I can start tracking this data and I can start analyzing it. The next thing that we want to do is we want to have a high-level overview of what data is available in Insight, what are the functionalities in there, and how we can start using them bit by bit. We're going to go back to our trusty Insight portal, and I'm just going to jump over into the analytics section, and I'm going to jump into my data center. Now here on the main dashboard, and this is what you would probably see when you first log in to Insight, we already have some dummy data that we've generated for today's purposes, right? And we can see that out of the box, we immediately have some key metrics that we're tracking, right? Conversions, again, as I mentioned, these are key business objectives that we want to achieve. Touch points, interactions that our visitors are doing on the way to converting, and also anonymous visitors is a total number, new contacts, people that we know of with their email, and maybe some other personally identifiable information. And all of this data is something that we will, again, for example, visitors and contacts, this is data that we'll start tracking immediately. And one thing that we can recommend as a very basic starting point is connect Insight to your website, leave it running for a few days, and then start to try and analyze the data that has been collected. In addition to what we see here, we'll also notice that the menu on the left-hand side here is split into different categories as well. So we have the performance metrics here, a content report that we can see, right? This is something typical that you would see on an analytics platform, right? Page views, time spent on page, unique page views, essentially content performance here, and similar reports for documents as well as videos here. But we also have some more advanced metrics, as we mentioned, right? Conversions and touch points, something that we'll focus on for today, but also reports such as the Uplift report and the attribution report, which tell us, okay, how are our efforts to promote our content, to interact with our visitors, how are they contributing to those key business objectives, which are essentially the conversion section here. Now, we also have the optimization and the audience sections here, but those are topics that we're going to be covering later on towards the end of this webinar, and more in depth on the webinar on the 24th. So for now, let's go ahead and move over to touch points first, right? So as I mentioned, touch points are key interactions that our visitors, our potential customers, the people that we interact with, will have with us as a brand. And these can include any type of interaction, right? It can be reading a news article, it can be subscribing to a newsletter, it can be an offline interaction that we have maybe with an in-person event, and so on and so forth. So we're going to see how we can track those touch points and how they actually contribute to our key business objectives. We'll go back here, and we're going to jump into the touch point section. Now, again, because this is a dummy data center, we already have some touch points defined, and we can actually see, okay, we have some hits already here. And again, because we're working in banking, a lot of our touch points are going to be banking related, right? We are running an email campaign with some home loan details, for example. We have a social media campaign for home loans. We have an email campaign here for first home owner offers and so on and so forth, right? So we're having all of these different marketing initiatives. We're having all of these different interactions that we want our visitors to perform, and we want to track their performance. So let's take a look at one towards the bottom, this social media campaign for home loans. First of all, we can see that we have 156 total hits and 126 unique hits. But we can also dig deeper into this touch point here. And we can also see that there are 21 known contacts. So these are people that have introduced themselves to us one way or another. We can also see hits over time, hits by personas, which is something that we're going to be talking in more detail later on. And also previous and next interactions, right? Where did these people come from? And again, because this is a social media campaign, it makes a lot of sense that they came from Instagram, from Facebook, from Google, and so on. But we can also see where they went, right? We are also going to see conversion reports here as well. So how are these touch points actually contributing to my key business objectives? For now, what we want to do is we want to understand how a touch point is defined. So we are going to go back to our touch point screen, right? From the performance here, we just click back on touch point. And on the top right, we'll see the option to define a new touch point. So when we define a touch point, we can give it a name. And in this case, let's continue with the sort of social media trend. And let's say we're running a LinkedIn ad campaign. And we can say LinkedIn campaign here. And now we can define the type of interaction that counts as a touch point hit, right? So when we click on the define button, we're going to see that there's a lot of options available in this data center. And on the top here, we're going to see native web interactions that are tracked just by connecting Insight to your CMS. Things such as visiting a page, things such as visiting a campaign page, maybe with some UTM parameters, downloading files, searching for something, playing out a video, and so on and so forth, right? All of these are something that we can track out of the box. And if we scroll a little bit further down, we can also report custom interactions. So again, our goal is to collect data from multiple different sources, not just your website, in order to get that 360-degree customer view. And here we can see that we can track things such as calls that we've logged maybe in our CRM, right? Inquiries that have been made, in-person visits or meetings that we've done, email campaigns, as we mentioned earlier, and so on. Now, in this case, we just want to go back to the very top here, and we just want to use the come from site interaction. And here we can just say we want people who came from LinkedIn.com to be tracked against this touch point. And that's all we need to do, right? At this point, I can press done. I can save this touch point. Now, at this point, we are not going to have any data generated for this report. But as I mentioned before, once we've created this touch point, we can leave Insight running for a little bit. And after that, we are going to get, again, the exact same report that we saw earlier, right? Total hits, unique hits, contacts with hits, and so on and so forth. For the next topic, we want to talk a little bit about conversions, right? And conversions are very similar to touch points in that they are still key interactions that we track with our visitors or with our potential customers, but those are our ultimate end goal, right? Everything that we're doing in terms of creating content, publishing pages, doing targeted marketing, right? We want people to convert. This is what we're going to take a look at next. So again, we are going to go back into our Insight data center. And under the performance section, we're going to switch over to conversions this time. Now with conversions, again, we see some preliminary metrics here on the main conversions page. Again, we've defined a couple of conversions such as opening up a savings account, inquiring about home loans after we've interacted with the social media campaign, and so on. We can actually see our conversion rate, right? 1.79% of our tracked individuals have converted into home loans, 156 total conversions, 62 in investment plans, and so on and so forth. But again, as with touch points, we do get a more detailed report when we jump into a specific conversion. So here we'll just go back quickly. The one that we want to take a look at together is the inquiry for home loans, where we have 2.16%. So here, again, we're going to get a detailed breakdown of who are the people who are actually converting into home loan inquiries, right? Again, we have 188 total conversions, 16 known contacts that we know of. And here we'll also see conversions by persona, right? So these are the different segments that can be defined in Sitefinity Insight. And the good thing is, right, we have some interesting data here already. People who have savings accounts are converting into home loan inquiries. That's the natural next step for them, right? They've been saving for a while. Maybe it's time to get their first home, things like that. And we can immediately see that type of information here. If we scroll a little bit further down, we'll also see that Uplift report that I mentioned. So what are the key touch points that are actually helping people convert, right? And if we take a look at this touch point here, the home loan details email campaign, we can see that 31% of 31 people who interacted with this email campaign went on to convert into a home loan inquiry. And based off of that, we're going to see that we get this conversion rate uplift coefficient, right? So 17% of people who hit this touch point convert versus that 2.16% that we saw in the beginning. So this is a very strong contributor to people converting into home loans, home loan inquiries. So maybe I should keep doing, my home loan details campaign. Maybe it's a good approach for me. Similar to that, we also have what we call discovered touchpoints, right? So this one is a hyperlink, which means that we find it and we're tracking it explicitly. But Insight is also going to tell us, well, people who interacted with your social media campaign are really converting into home loan inquiries. So 42 people who interacted with the social media campaign converted. So even if we haven't explicitly defined touch points, Insight is going to tell us, okay, these are the key events that you probably should track, or you should probably increase in terms of effort because they are helping towards your conversions. And this is what I meant in the beginning, right? Even if we just Insight and we leave it running for a while, there's still some actionable data that we can see and we can read. Now, if we scroll a little bit further down, we'll also see the attribution report that we mentioned. And here we can just see attributing pages to conversions, right? So my home loans product page is contributing here. That's great, right? My landing page for home loans is working. General loan information, credit card promotions is interesting, but refinancing is probably more interesting, right? Refinancing a home loan, that's a good offer for our customers as well. So as with touch points, we do want to go back and we want to define a conversion. And the good news here is that the process is exactly the same, right? We define a conversion from the top right here, from the main conversions page. We give it a name. So in my case, I'll just do a simple contact us form being submitted. So just call this one contact us submission. And for the conversion event, we have access to the exact same track data that we would in a touch point. So depending on the importance of the event, right, we can define it either as a conversion or as a touch point. And instead of using the exact URL that my page is just for contact us, now a little bit different conversions inventory value, right? If I, for whatever reason, knew the average amount of a home loan conversion, I could add that here and we can actually track monetary value as well. In our case, we are going to skip this for now and we'll leave this conversion as a simple contact us form submission. Now, once we save it, this is actually an example that will generate some data. So one thing to know as well is when we're creating these touch points, when we're creating these conversions, if we have past collected data, it will show up on the report. It doesn't mean that we only started tracking this contact us form submission now, that we're not going to capture past data, right? We already see that. People who are using home loans are reaching out, home loans prospects are reaching out. That's great, right? That's pretty much it for conversions. All right, so for the final topic for today, we just want to do a brief overview of the other functionalities that we're going to be covering in session number 2 and session number 3. And we are going to go back into our Insight data center. The first thing that we want to focus on is actually going to be the audience section rather than the optimization section. With the audience section, we have 2 different segmentation options that we can use in order to target our audience better. The first one is personas, right? This is segmenting people based off of who they are, what we know about them. This can include firmographic data, demographic data, if people are known contacts, but also behavior-based data as well, right? All of those interactions that I showed you, the searches, the page views, the externally sourced actions, they can be used to model a persona based off of common traits. And once we have those personas, we can understand what is important to them better, right? We would see what conversions they convert into, what touch points they interact with, and they really help us understand our audience better and actually be laser focused based off of their preferences and interests. Similar to that, we also have another segmentation model called lead scoring. Lead scoring is more akin to a typical marketing or a sales funnel, where we're actually tracking people over time and where they are at in their journey, right? So whether they are in the awareness stage of their interaction with us as a brand, consideration, application or purchase phase, existing customer phase, and so on and so forth. So it's a much better way of tracking people over their lifetime with us, if you want to call it that way. But both personas and lead scoring can be combined together in order to fully understand who our customers are, where are they at in their journey, how do we speak better to them. The last thing that we want to mention around the audience functionality is the contact section. The contact section actually allows us a deeper dive into non-contacts and understanding exactly what they went through from their first interaction to their very last interaction with us. And we can use those contacts to model personas, and lead scoring can create the ideal customer profile. Going back to the optimization stage, the optimization stage is actually one that's more concerned with activation, right? So again, we've gathered the data, we've analyzed it, we've segmented our customers. How do we start speaking better to those people, right? So first of all, of course, we can run A/B tests to test out different messages, different content, and so on. But we can also personalize content and the way that we speak to those people as well. So we can create multiple different versions of a website page, for example, which will allow us to, again, be very, very targeted with our messaging and how we speak to people. Now, in session number 3, which is going to be at some point in May, we're also going to be talking about using these personas, these lead scores, these contacts to activate outside of a Sitefinity managed website as well. So to go back to Joachim's question, we are going to be talking about channels other than Sitefinity. So collecting data, sending data to external sources, and so on, so that we see how we can really communicate effectively with customers, no matter what channel they are interacting with us through. And so with that being said, that is pretty much it from me for today.
Thank you so much for coming today, and we look forward to seeing you in April. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.